bag, bring it back, do it clean, clean, clean. Smoke a sack, keep a mag, sip it lean, lean, lean. Fuck a bang, bring it back, do it clean, clean. Smoke a sack, keep a mag, sip it lean, lean. Fuck a chill, fuck a bill, make a scene, scenes, 50 racks, 100 bands off my jeans, jeans. Phones chillin', walk through must get dizzy. I came from my kidneys and I'm trapping like a money. Yo, bitch with me, nah boy, she ain't missing. Hold on, who you dissing? I say hold on, cock my pleasy, bang, bang, bang. Bring it back, do it clean, clean, clean. Smoke a sack, keep a mag, sip it lean, lean, lean. Fuck a chill, bring it back, do it clean, clean, clean. Smoke a sack, keep a mag, sip it lean, lean, lean. Fuck a bang, bring it back, do it clean, clean. Smoke a sack, keep a mag, sip it lean, lean. Fuck a chill, fuck a bill, make a scene, scenes, 50 racks, 100 bands off my jeans, jeans, jeans. Phones chillin', walk through must get dizzy. I came from my kidneys and I'm trapping like a money. Yo, bitch with me, nah boy, she ain't missing. Hold on, who you dissing? I say hold on, cock my pleasy, bang, bang.
The lives of your bond, a power like life itself, unseen for generations, a dyad in the force.
How's it going, guys? Welcome to another episode of DYAD in the Force, episode 258, the one about the New Republic. If you saw the title of the stream, this is something I've actually been thinking about since the Mandalorian and Grogu trailer dropped. Are we getting the prequels to the sequels? Is this the new thing?
Absolutely. I'm excited because this is. I've been waiting for this one. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to have our mixer with you guys. All obviously. It's a good save. Obviously. Shout out to Smart Guy in the chat, says, hey everyone. Craig McGuinn says, glad to see that we finally have a members crawl on this channel. It's always been on the back end. It's always been on the stream ending scene, but I decided to add it because everyone, there's not a lot of you guys still have to pick your ships. So I just wanted to make it more prevalent. So we added it on the front end as well. Harith with that, and then the shout out to Soraya Sapono. Hello everyone. And Nemo, we out here, but FYI, Twitch stream isn't working again. What you mean? I'm live. Can you check on that?
Yes. Although I have not logged into Twitch in a hot minute.
Let's see. I mean, I thought it was obvious from Showcase 2023. I'll save it. I mean, yeah, but from the Showcase 2023, it wasn't as prevalent. Like we got the Ahsoka, we had Mandalorian, and then we had Rangers of the New Republic. Obviously, fell by the wayside, but given what we're like gearing up for now, like considering Mandalorian and Grogu is a movie, Ahsoka season 2, Heir to the Empire.
Yeah, we're not live.
We're not live on Twitch?
Nope. You may need to refresh your key or log it back in or something.
Interesting. I didn't get any error messages. All right, why don't you break the ice with the chat while I figure this out?
Oh, I was just gonna watch other people on Twitch. No, no. I mean, we don't do my inner Kendrick Lamar be like Twitch. Don't kill my vibe. Yeah, we don't do a whole ton on Twitch, but you know, if it's there, you know, we like to have it up. The VODs go up there, and we live forever through the internet. And yeah, that's how it goes. But I mean, we are coming to this New Republic era, but that's going to be the main topic, so I'm not going to bring that up right now. I have a lot of thoughts on it, but I can't say nothing yet. But yeah, how's everyone else in the chat doing? I know that there is a lot of people who are going to be excited for Scream 7. Is that this weekend? Is that next weekend?
Might be this weekend. Unsure.
Cal says, pretty greasy.
I have this really annoying...
It says, ew, Scream 7. All I know is it's coming out. I'm not in the horror scene at all.
That's going to be an OnlyFans charge, sir.
Hey.
Twitch is probably all Resident Evil 9 at the moment. I can't wait to get home and play it. Okay, so that dropped. Are you jumping onto that? Or are you still just doing Where Winds Meet, Pep?
I'm thinking about it. What do you guys think? Should we play some Requiem on stream?
Oh, that's right. Scream 7, they canned what's her face? I forgot the girl that sings. Yeah. No, she's cool. That's a good reason. So never mind. Don't go see it. Let's see.
My Twitch stream key hasn't changed.
All right. Well, we still got Resident Evil 9. Should I try playing a Resident Evil game? I've never played any of them.
I think you should. There's plenty of remakes. Obviously the caveat here is you gotta share it with the community. You gotta do some streams.
We'll see. I feel like I've just been, at least on the gaming front. Well, no, I'm still absolutely in love with Neo 3. It's so much fun. Speaking of great television, Chocolate Element, have y'all seen A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms? Homie, I don't even know what that is.
That's Duncan Egg from Game of Thrones.
Oh, okay.
But why isn't my why aren't we live? My stream key. All right. Anybody stream on Twitch? Cal, anybody? Like, I went to my stream manager, got my key. It's not changed. We seem to be live on TikTok. Thank you to Darth Angel for all the likes.
So,
I didn't understand.
well, okay, all right. So it's a Game of Thrones spinoff, and man, I've just been so out of a lot of stuff, and I apologize. What is the selling point of this? I guess I don't remember the people. I don't remember Duncan.
I'm using multi-stream. The plugin for OBS. Which should be working because we're streaming to TikTok.
Okay, it's George R. R. Martin's favorite novella. Well, that sells me in and of itself. Whenever you have something that the creator is passionate about, it's usually really good or really weird, and it's kind of like a weird look into their mind and how twisted of a human they are. George says come back to write more stuff for the show to adapt. Oh, interesting. Best adaptation of any Game of Thrones material. Okay. Yeah, I have heard people talk about Sir Dunk. I just thought this was like a Gen Z like basketball player or something. It's my Andor for the Game of Thrones universe. That's high praise. That is very high praise. Think of Last of Us Mandalorian, but in Game of Thrones. Super small scale with a focus on the characters. That's what I love. Oh yeah, give me small, give me character base. Put me on a journey with them. Okay. We can watch it after we watch Masters of the Universe. I still want to watch it. I keep falling asleep, man. Down here, it's gotten a lot hotter, and part of my job will have me stand in the sun for like a 2-hour time period. And then I get home, and then I just shut down. Just do not do anything during the first 10 minutes. Okay. Yeah, Daredevil Born Again, Season 2. Do you guys have high hopes for this season? Actually, I don't recall if I've talked to you, Harith, about it. Where did you end up? Where were you on Season 1?
Jeez, Monarch is back.
See, I had a lot of issues with Season 1 of Daredevil Born Again, but the potential was there. Like, I just feel like they focused their story wrong. Like they were bad at like min-maxing their story. But it had like all of the stuff was there. They're bringing back the Netflix crew, so Season 2 is going to be better. Yeah, plus, they got the ground. Yeah, I mean, they got things moving. They had to tell a lot of story. It felt like Season 1 was like a bridge to the story they wanted to tell. They had to figure out how to get to the story they wanted to tell, and hopefully this is it. You can tell what was reshot from what was the original edit. Yeah. I'm excited to see Jessica Jones in, but did they confirm Luke Cage?
They might have. I'm looking at our Twitch, and the last stream was 21 days ago. I'm like, really? When did it stop working?
Yeah. Luke Cage is not confirmed, but it's heavily rumored. I would be so disappointed if we don't get him. Yeah. Bring my boy back.
Yeah, I'm unsure why it's not working. Like, it's all of the stream settings are there.
Are we taking money on the over and the under bets on Mike Coulter showing up?
I think he will. There's no, I mean, I hate to do like a prove of false, but like, what's the reason he wouldn't? Prove to me that he wouldn't.
That's gonna be.
Is he a Mandalorian?
Hey, shout out to Kenny for being a member of the DYAD squad for 45 months. I got nothing, man. I mean, like, all of the info is correct.
Yeah, I mean, we can address it after the stream. It hasn't. we haven't done it in for 3 shows. I think we can. Is Danny finna be back or something with him? You know what? Mixed feelings, but let's give Finn Jones another chance.
Nope. Nope. Did your stream key change? No, it didn't. I actually I logged back into Twitch and looked for it and got it and repasted it back in. Nothing really changed.
So here's the thing: is the actor is very much aware of the issues, and is not only apologetic, but he is like chomping at the bit to like, please give me one more chance. You know, maybe it's one and done, but I would rather keep him than lose anyone else. You know what I mean? Now, if Calling Wing became the Iron Fist, that would be my dream. I think that would be the best thing. But
I'd like that too. So where did he say this? At like a con or something?
Yeah, there was and this I want to say this was like maybe a year and a half ago, but he was like, I mean, yeah, there was just a lot of hate.
They've been asking.
Yeah, everyone asks him all the time, and he's like, yeah, I kind of deserved it, you know. I will say the very like the last episode of season 2, yeah. Oh, the other thing is when him and Luke Cage were together, it did feel very much like Heroes for Hire. How they interacted together was great.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really have a problem with his acting so much as his performance, because those are equal parts important to playing a character that has to perform. So, I mean,
I still will never forgive them for not going with their second choice for Danny Rand.
Who was their second choice?
They were between Finn Jones and the guy who was the drunken master in the one episode. Yeah, in one episode of Iron Fist, there was a guy who was a drunken master, and he was the person who was in the runnings for the character. I can't remember his name.
Oh, Ludi Lin?
Mm-hmm.
Or Louis Tan.
Yeah.
I don't know. My USDA prime choice has always been Daniel Wu, but he's getting up there now. And so I don't know if I'll ever be able to see him in the MCU playing, because he is a premier on-screen martial artist. And if you haven't seen Into the Badlands, you should. But if it was Louis Tan was unfortunately he was Shatterstar. Didn't make it past Deadpool though. Wait, no, he did. He was in Deadpool 2.
Yeah. But I do just think, I mean, he would have been just a great choice, and I think him being, I don't know, it's not my place to really say, but I think him being someone who's like half Asian might tell a really interesting story for Iron Fist of, you know, not making it so it's not as much like a white savior type of thing, but more fish out of water of being trapped between two cultures. And I think you could, I think that would be a really interesting story.
That was my original pitch with Daniel Wu. It's like have like an ABC or, you know, an Asian American kind of struggle with identity. I mean, it's a thing that most kind of transplants suffer from. You know, this. I need to kill this thing. It's annoying.
No, I hope you don't, because we can't see it, and you're just randomly just like,
whole clap. Well, now that the Twitch thing is kind of like, Darth Angel, our senior correspondent to the TikToks, can you let us know if like the TikTok stream is okay too? Because I'm like, kind of like, on edge right now. I know the YouTube stream is working great, which is fine because that's our flagship. But let's see. The random claps are so funny. All right, chill. I know it is funny, and I know you guys can't see it, but it's annoying.
Speaking of Mortal Kombat, we got Mortal Kombat 2.
It looks good. I feel like,
when is that dropping?
I don't know. Maybe April, May. I just know that Hollywood has a pretty good grasp on Mortal Kombat, and I really, really am disappointed that they just keep fumbling with Street Fighter. They just don't. I don't know. They seem to latch onto all of the wrong things about Street Fighter. And it's evident in just like how, you know, how satirical Guile looks. It's like, yeah, that's with any character that originates in anime. Their features are very accentuated and over the top. But like, even I will admit, the dude that Van Damme has in the classical one looks good. It makes sense, you know.
But he looks like a human, you know. Not
Van
like
Damme didn't look like a human back then. No, but you know, just the over the top nature of it. Like, yeah, they're playing to the overall aesthetic of like a Street Fighter 5, 6 kind of jam but then what? What is the emotional theming of the movie? What is the story?
There is no story. There is no emotional theming. I mean, at least from what I can tell. From, mind you, I'm going to watch it. They already have my money, so I guess they win. but yeah, no. It looks like they wrote the movie to be like, hey, we want you to feel like you did when you were in the arcade playing this game. Not, we want to tell a compelling story in the universe of this game.
Yeah. Not gonna lie, I have zero clue that Street Fighter has a story. Every single character has a story, but if I were to distill it down to one centralized narrative, is that there is a criminal organization that is posing, that is like kind of funding this World Warrior tournament to find the best fighters so that this criminal organization can then take them and either make them their soldiers or sap them of their power and steal it for bison. I mean, that's like the most main kind of narrative, but like Ryu has a pilgrim story of like a warrior's pilgrimage story. Ken has like, the world champion story where he kind of falls off and falls from grace and then has to, claw back up to the top. Chun-Li has a very, very interesting story where her father was killed by Vega and or Balrog in the Japanese version, and she's on a quest. That's why she works with Interpol to capture that criminal. Ryu's story intersects with Sagat. He's a rival of his on his pilgrimage. All of these characters have very, very interesting stories. With Cammy and like being a secret agent. But like it seems to me that like judging from the trailer, it's just like here's a bunch of characters from a tournament, and they're all kind of eccentric in a way. And let's latch onto that. So there was, Legend of Chun-Li with Kristen Kruick was like the start of something that was supposed to be really good, because they chose a character and they wanted to explore a narrative.
They did want to, yeah, but
it didn't work because it wasn't the right story. I still maintain,
or the right actors, or the.
But yeah, like even with like Killer Instinct, with all of the fighting games, they all have main like central narratives. And if you can't like pick apart the base fundamental pillars of that narrative, then you have nothing. And what they've done with Mortal Kombat, even going back to 1995, is that this is a tournament for the fate of the world. It's not a tournament that's just like gruesome and violent for the sake of gruesome and violence. It's because other dimensions want to have the right to invade Earth, the Earth realm, and these champions have to defend against it.
Yeah, but even if the story isn't apparent to people, look at what we got from Arcane.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like
the
game exploded in popularity because we got a narrative just inside of the universe. You know what I mean? Same thing happened when Cyberpunk Edge Runners came out. Right, you had a game that had a terrible release, that was like, pretty dead. That had more people playing it than at any point in its history. And I think if you tell a compelling story in the universe, you have the ability to do that, to revitalize it. I just don't think that that's what they're going for with this.
And the thing is, the cartoons have done a fantastic job at kind of doing those stories.
Yeah,
you know?
but like, look at the popularity of Fallout. How it jumped up, because of the show. Fallout 76 having a massive resurgence.
And what they did there, and I loved season 2. What they did there was they took a story of someone in the world and told it, and it was surrounded by familiar game elements. You're like, Deathclaw, mutants, but like the familiar elements in this Street Fighter trailer is just like, oh, just a bunch of colorful characters. But what's the story? Like it's kind of it concerns me that the main sizzle of the trailer is breaking a car, and I'm like, that's not. That might be like nostalgia bait for Street Fighter fans of like yore, but it doesn't tell us anything.
I mean, to me, it tells me the wrong thing.
Yeah.
What are they going to have next? Them kicking basketballs into the
parry the basketball.
Yeah.
Was it pretty early in production? Still, you would think that there was there's some story elements to latch onto there. I mean, listen, I'm not gonna write it off like the chuds do, but just based off of the trailer, it doesn't look promising to me. Just like Choco said, I'll see it. I'm a Street Fighter fan through and through, much more so than than Mortal Kombat. But I have to admit, Karl Urban looks great as Johnny Cage, and like the story that they've put forth through the trailer is very interesting. I've always put forth that it would be so easy to just do a Ryu and Ken movie. Focus on their training, just like the cartoons. They meet Guile on their adventure. After they've finished their training, they go and they start traveling the world, and they see this World Warrior tournament. They meet Guile, who is investigating the Shadow organization. That's the cartoon, and the cartoon's really good. But like, it's a story. It's not episode 1, Ryu versus some jobber in the tournament, and then episode 2 is another match. Like, they're telling a story.
I just think Street Fighter shouldn't be a movie. That's just me.
I would agree.
Make it a series. Give me 3-episode vignettes of different people's stories, and then have it go into the tournament.
I would take that. Definitely take that. Eli Harris says, "Hey brothers, glad you're doing your thing. Star Wars universe is one of the few bright spots in the world. All good. Hey, appreciate you rocking with us, Eli."
Yeah.
Also, take note, if you guys haven't, I have a community post up asking you guys to pick your ships if you are in the Dyad squad. Still a number of you that haven't. I put the Stealth X for you, and I think you said last week you were going to go back to it. I might have been wrong. The Stealth X ship?
Yes, I want to use the Stealth X.
AWC says, "I want to see Disney make out of universe stuff. No restrictions from canon means they can go crazy." So that's just basically saying, you want to see them do original stuff, or do you want them to do like Star Wars stuff, but what ifs, and just kind of having fun with the tapestry? By the way, guys, we do have a new trivia segment planned for the bonus rounds of this show. It's something that Choco alluded to and teased last week. and it's very much inspired by our good friends Podwan's podcast and Guess the Movie by Frame. We have some Guess the Saber. So we'll have some scenes of sabers from Star Wars, and you'll have to guess it before it clears up. I don't know if I'm explaining that correctly. Before it
once
up.
we get to it, though, it'll make sense. We don't need to explain too much now. Let's see here.
AWC says Star Wars, but go crazy. AWC, have you seen Star Wars Visions? That's pretty close to going crazy.
That's the thing, is going crazy in what way, you know?
I'd say Our Song is a good example. Screecher to Screech.
No. As far as what he wants, does he want to see like a Vader fighting Yoda, and that's why, because it's something that can't happen?
Oh,
or do you just want big explosion? Do you want Star Killer ripping Star Destroyers out of the planet? Do you want like Anakin being charismatic? Things that would never happen,
A crazy Talon card way. Kymir was going crazy, says Eli. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I think a lot of people assume that like being in continuity with canon is highly restrictive, but I'd argue that it challenges storytellers to be more creative. I suppose, like, if we talk about,
it's
like,
funny you say that. Oh, just because I have the same feeling. It's kind of like when someone, an artist uses this canvas, right? You are restricted by the canvas itself. How the amount of flex it has, its ability to absorb things, it's the material that it's made of. These are limits that force you to be creative and allow people to do really cool, interesting things. Versus if you're just like, do art, and people are like, I don't know. And I just feel like, I feel like there are certain things aren't necessarily restrictions; they are frameworks.
I'd say so. I think proper guardrails, prevents the creativity from spiraling, right? Because pure creativity and unbridled creativity and just kind of letting someone loose in the world is great for world building another world. But to come into Star Wars, where everyone is so gung-ho about established rules and stuff, and then you let them go crazy, it's going to cause some problems there.
That being said, I do I love the High Republic and the Old Republic, going back into the past far enough to where we don't have to worry about stepping on the toes of continuity. But yeah, I mean, if we're talking about like the physics and stuff of the universe, I do want some consistency there.
Kenny says, here's a cool concept I thought of: KOTOR in the style of Clone Wars. The game is already almost there. If they did do the remake, have it in the style of Clone Wars would not change much of it at all. So I'm going to need a little bit more than in the style of Clone Wars to kind of parse what you envision with that.
Also, I might be crazy. Am I the only person that, even to this day, am not super in love with the art design of Clone Wars? Maybe it's just me.
It's something that I've come to accept. It's not something that I would fall back onto. Do you know what I mean?
Well, it's unique and it's iconic.
Yeah.
For what it was. When I first saw it, I thought it was jarring and I didn't like it. But it's not something I want. Like I still want to keep pushing forward and have different art styles. You know,
I
mean,
do
they
appreciate it a lot
could
more
do it,
nowadays. With like Tales of the Empire and the Tales of and the new season of Clone Wars and Bad Batch, like the tech has come a long way.
The tech has come a long way. I'm curious what like I don't know. I still look at like Dooku's beard and it still freaks me out a little bit. I don't know why.
Could be a cake topper. John Connor says, "Is Visions?" Yes, it is.
John Connor of Mars.
After 7 seasons of Clone Wars, 3 seasons Bad Batch, 3 Tales and Maul, I just want a new art style. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to that. I honestly think that for the most part, these are cost-cutting measures. You know, they have the tech in place, they have the assets in place, you know, and so it's like how I argued that doing a season 2 of The Acolyte would have been much cheaper since they had built sets and they had the costumes and stuff. Whereas Clone Wars, they can do Tales, they can do Maul Shadow Lord, and they can do Bad Batch using assets from the Clone Wars.
And no, Visions is not canon. And by the way, Kenny, we're not trying to crap on your idea. You know, it could be interesting. I'd have to see it. Just off jump, I'm just looking at I want art style of like Dragon Age Inquisition, but that's just me. Just more up to date.
Well, I mean, for me, I was actually more kind of just trying to figure out what you wanted from the game, right? Because saying in the style of Clone Wars doesn't tell me much about the game. Unless you just mean fully KOTOR, turn-based, dice roll system with Clone Wars style. Is fine because KOTOR back then just doesn't look like any style. That's how bad the graphics have aged. If I were to remake KOTOR in a modern style, I actually would choose Outlaws. Outlaws was a really, really great art style. And it's very distinct from like the Jedi Survivor, Jedi Fallen Order style. But I also choose it because it's an open world game. KOTOR was semi-open world. So it kind of like lends to it, or is complementary. I'd also love, now hear me out, maybe not KOTOR, I'd also love a Star Wars game in like pixel art. Not like the old days, but like pixel art now with all of the tech that they have, where you know it's HD and there's more range of motion, you know.
I want a Metroidvania style Indiana Jones game. I feel like that would be perfect. Yeah. You know what I mean? You run around, you know, you're shooting Nazis, you have your whip, you're swinging around, you punch people and stuff. I just think that'd be cool. And you're like solving a mystery, you gotta find keys to unlock places, you know, so you have to, you know, go back through the same spot. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I just feel like it lends itself to Metroidvania like beautifully. Did you like the latest Indiana Jones game? I didn't finish it, but I did enjoy it. It was jarring at first, being, you know, entirely stuck in the being him, you know. But then after you just lean into it, yeah, it was fun to run around and punch people in the face.
Give me a bolt gun style game as a clone commando. Honestly, you know what? I'd also love an RTS. Just a Clone Wars RTS, building bases, fighting droids, or vice versa, fighting clones. There you go, Super Ruiz. We're on the same wavelength there. What else is there? Well, I mean, I took your homework to heart. We'll probably talk more in depth about this in the next After Dark. But I finished Togenanki.
And
it's good. It's good. I have one criticism, and I'll try to be ambiguous about this for those that are either currently watching or will watch in the future. I feel like...
Is it how they draw women? Because they are
no
brick houses.
That's all good for me. I'm saying I think that I guess I'll just say their names because no one's gonna know. I think that Mikado and the hell's his name? I just forgot it for some reason. Mikado and Shiki. Their friendship didn't feel earned. So hear me out. This is how I see it. They met, like, Shiki like went on a detour and then they like met during like a festival. And then like they saw a movie. And then for some reason I'm watching the fallout of Naruto and Sasuke. I'm like, bro, they literally just known each other for a couple of days. I don't know what's going on here. You know what I mean? That's my only criticism, though. I'm super pumped for what comes after, though. I heard an RTS in the works.
It's just interesting that you say it because that's partially how I feel about Bleach, because I felt like these are all just kids that went to school together, but they weren't friends.
Oh, that's true.
And then they're just like, but I would die for you, and you're like, whoa, all right, cool. Fire puppy or water gecko? Yes, Pokemon Wind and Waves. There was some news that dropped about that. Did I actually watch it? No, but I read the. I've been trying to actually just read news because sometimes I can, do it better than watching like actual releases.
I did hear about this from our senior correspondent to the Stars, Cal, who said that the new Pokemon game is set in Southeast Asia. So, I don't know, maybe I'll look into it. Does that mean like that? So with every new Pokemon, do they add new Pokemon?
Yes.
Because I feel like every time I hear about Pokemon, people are still talking about Pikachu.
That's because they're filthy casuals like we are. No, there's like my Pokemon like lexicon only goes up to like Gen 3, like naturally. And then there's just a bunch of extras that I know of because playing Pokemon Go and other stuff. But they keep adding more and more, and they get wilder and wilder, and actually in some cases they make more and more sense.
I was going to make a joke about how since it's in Southeast Asia, there's a new Filipino Pokemon called Lechamon for like lechon. But then it just sounds like he's like a Lecher Pokemon. Lechermon.
No.
No, but that would be my main. I would definitely be rocking that pork Pokemon. Lechemon.
I think it would be like a little pig.
Yeah. For your information, we're up to 1025 Pokemon. I don't think I'm ever going to appreciate how deep this IP goes.
Well, and that's the thing that's become daunting is, you know, I had the knowledge of all of them and their matchups and their strengths and weaknesses, and now there's been so much more added that I just feel like out of sorts, that I just won't know, you know, like what even is a fairy type, you know?
Oh.
But which of the obviously Cal's gonna do the fire dog. That's
is that 100%. The only, or is it just 3?
Oh no, there's always just 3 starters to choose from, and so I'm curious which of those starters appeals to you.
Oh, was this Fire Puppy and Water Gecko and what's this one?
Treebeard.
Treebeard. I'd probably go with Treebird. I'm sure there's some like cool sniping skill that it has. AWC says, with a lack of push from Disney, Star Wars is dying. Warhammer is filling the niche like Lord of the Rings and GOT. I mean, I don't think that Disney Star Wars is dying. You know, you could have that perspective, but
yeah, I mean, yeah, if that's how you feel, that's how you feel. I feel like there's a lot more Star Wars coming out than there is Warhammer, though. So,
yeah, I feel like, you know, just because there's a Warhammer movie coming out, like, but I feel like...
Is it a movie or a series? It's a movie?
I'm not sure at this point, but, like, we still have more Star Wars.
Yeah, so we have that from Henry Cavill, and then last year we got the Warhammer game that dropped, which is just kind of like Warhammer horde mode type of killing things. I can't it's like Helldivers, but not quite for it. But I kind of thought that game wasn't still very popular. I don't know.
But even just kind of looking at those 2 releases right now this year, we have Maul Shadow Lord, Ahsoka Season 2, Mandalorian and Grogu in theaters. So
in 2 games.
Yeah. I've been seeing a lot less stuff all across my socials from Star Wars. I mean, that's no indication of its health overall. The fandom is an indication of its health, and when people show up for the projects, it's a healthy fandom.
But you know, it might be falling by the wayside to your socials. I think what's interesting now that we didn't have growing up is the algorithms of all of our socials, right? Your algorithms are a silo. I mean, it sounds like, do you find yourself, AWC, just less interested in Star Wars or jumping into Star Wars mediums, you know, less? Because that could also shape your algorithm, and so you see it less, and then so you get less hype about it.
Yeah, we also have books and comics still every week, every month. Like last year was what did we get last year? We had Tales of, Visions, Andor Season 2, The Acolyte, or The Acolyte was 2 years ago. Time flows fast.
I just feel spoiled in the best way possible.
Also, you guys have us every Friday, and we will always keep Star Wars in your mouths.
Time Trap says, how would you feel about an Indiana Jones movie with Hydra Cap as the antagonist, under mind control of Red Skull, and Indy manages to snap him out of it, and they team up in the second half, like a weird crossover. You know what's interesting? You know, I haven't been as following up on in that side of Marvel Comics, but have they brought Hydra Cap back? Does anyone know? Because like the whole thing about Hydra Cap is he's Hydra Cap. That's, you know what I mean? Like they
sounds like a Mega Man villain.
No, they used the Cosmic Cube to change his backstory, so he was literally always Hydra, and so we got a Cap back, but Hydra Cap still exists and is still alive.
Jesus Christ! I thought you were talking about something completely different. I just realized you talking. Yeah, I was like, what? That's why I was like, it sounds like a Mega Man villain, Hydra Cap. Like,
I'm Hydra Cap. Dun, 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 dun.
I still don't know anything about that, but I do know that like there has been, you know, conversations on social media, especially like when you watch like Emergency Awesome, that Chris Evans is reportedly coming back, like, and not like in a cameo role, so it might be Hydra Cap. We'll see. Cal says, I'm big hype for Pokemon Waves and Wind, Filipino Pokemon game. Let me know if there's let me know all of the Pokemon being released with this game, and I'll let you know if it's a Filipino Pokemon game. You gotta have like a really weird Pokemon that just goes like this all the time. Let's see here. Star Wars is alive and well. I find the lack of faith in the Force disturbing. Yeah, I mean, it could be as alive and well as you want it to be, or as dead in the water as you want it to be. But honestly, with the sentiments of it being dead in the water, there's that the people that often say that are still talking about it.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I don't think he was saying it like it was a negative.
No, I'm not talking about that.
I also just think that things are true. There are just things that just happen. You know what I mean? Like with me and you, there's been a lot of just like dope anime dropping, or not even just dropping. It's been there. We've been like thinking about it, and I just haven't, jumped into it yet. And because of that also trains what we've been watching and thinking about. My work has been just really busy. Well, I'm putting a lot into it because I need to be as successful as possible quickly in it, which I believe is going to start paying off majorly starting next week. So we'll see.
I mean, on my end. Oh, there you are, you freaking piece of shit! Damn it. Forget it. For me, the content creation has been picking up dramatically, and so I've been finding myself with a lot more time to just enjoy myself and watch these anime and watch these shows.
Yeah, speaking of which, right now it looks like there's 38 people watching on the YouTube side, so please deploy the likes.
Give us a like if you want to help us out. That's the best way to help us out. Also consider joining the DYAD squad. Also for all the members in here as well, what other content would you like to see us make for you guys for the DYAD squad? Because we have our After Dark, and some of our videos do get released members first, but I would love to hear from you guys directly how we can show our appreciation for your support.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? We actually did get a request.
While you load that up, I want to speak directly to let's see here. Harith says, I can confirm Star Wars burnout is very real. I mean, I think burnout exists in all things, right? And that's why with Choco and I, we're watching anime. I'm watching Cross. You know, we are gearing up for One Piece coming back. Like, it would be unrealistic for us to 24/7 consume Star Wars. And quite frankly, they cannot keep up that release cadence for new content. So we're game. We're there day one, Star Wars stuff. But like, we have other things that we watch too and enjoy. You know? Looking forward to Mandalorian and Grogu, Ahsoka season 2, and Maul Shadow Lord. But like, outside of those things and outside of that excitement, you know, we gotta scratch other itches. More book talk, comic talk. Choco, we definitely have to catch up with the comics.
Yes, we definitely do. I will say though, there is an awesome podcast called Comics Unmasked that I was going to be starting with someone, and then I got this job. But they've been going strong and been diving into the books and just having fantastic conversations. Also, our good friend Dimitri with the Keeg. Also a great place to, you know, have people talk about comics. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot outside of Star Wars. Again, we haven't even talked about Star Wars a whole ton this episode. We've been talking about Togen Enki and, you know, video games. The video game front. Crimson Desert is I'm so excited for it, and it can't come soon enough. When is it coming out? So also, the thing I interrupted to say is we got a request. There's a video on horrible dialogue. They're specifically singling out the somehow Palpatine return line, and so we had a video submitted for review that I imagine. Sorry, I was just sending you so you knew what video it was. Not that we have to watch it right now.
It's only 10 minutes though. You can watch it with chat and kind of review it along with chat. You want
to do a live one?
We can.
All right. I'll leave it up to chat. You guys want to watch us do a live video review?
I just need some time to set things up.
Yeah, because it was Brian Martin that submitted it. I don't know if I was supposed to use their real name.
Well, I mean, it was a request.
Yeah, we could definitely do it. Let's see. There's so many games now. One for sleep, one for life sim, one for battling, more card game. Yeah, and that's the thing when it comes to gaming is you have to have games for that scratch different itches. You know. When TFA and TLJ were still unseen, the fandom was extremely interested in Star Wars. Unfortunately, the hype was diminished with the disappointment of the sequels. That's undeniable. I mean, maybe. I mean, you could say that that's what happened with the prequels, but honestly, with the sequels, I mean, again, all three of the films were on the list of the biggest movies of all time. So, but yeah, there's no denying that it diminished some people's excitement. You know, I just think that that's how stories work in general. You know, if you're excited for the first one, maybe not everyone jumps to the second one, and then not any of those people jumps to the third one. The first is always going to have the most confused because most people aren't starting on the second or third. So like that would be something that's consistent throughout all of Star Wars, including the original trilogy, actually.
All right, you guys ready for this? Ba 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 ba. Let's move to our reaction scene. Hopefully Choco can see it.
Yes, I can.
And I will move us to this, I guess. Actually, no. The corner was great. The corner was great. All right. Let's review this video by Art of Storytelling. Okay. The worst word of dialogue ever written. You guys let me know in the chat if it's too loud or too quiet.
We all have our favorite
customer again outside of Star Wars. Sorry.
Here we go.
Examples of bad dialogue. Heck, you don't even need to leave the Star Wars universe to find some of the best, worst lines ever written. But there's one line, in fact, one word, that I think takes the trophy for the worst bit of dialogue of all time. And that line is, of course, Poe Dameron's revelation to his fellow Resistance members in The Rise of Skywalker that somehow Palpatine returned.
I already disagree because there's a lot more worse lines of dialogue in film history.
In film history, in Star Wars history, in this very movie. The worst line of dialogue in this movie, to me, is "I'm the spy."
I mean, I think it's tied with "Win the war."
I mean, I'm.
But how do
make
you?
no secrets of not being a fan of this movie, but that, I mean, if you didn't like, I don't know how you boil it down to just the word "somehow," but I'm sure he'll get into it.
Yeah, the first thing that I would say though is like, how do you distill like all of film history down to make this assumption that this is the worst line of dialogue ever?
Yeah. No,
like these superlatives really irk me.
They do take the wind out of the sails when it comes to like trying to have any sort of actual conversation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It feels like when, you know, my spouse is like, "You always do this," and I'm like, count how many times I've done it. All right, you've done it 3 times. It's like, thank you. now we can have a conversation. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah. All right, let's keep going.
This one little word is in fact so incredibly bad that I think it's a fascinating subject for study. How is it that the glorious return of the greatest villain in the greatest hero myth of our generation somehow got totally botched?
Well, I mean, I could tell you in 5 words or less, Poe doesn't know the details.
Yeah, I gotta wait to see what he refers to as botched. But
I know that's just my immediate reaction. Like, like my immediate reaction is it's not that deep. It's like Poe doesn't know. He's like somehow, and I know that there's movies out there that have employed this kind of distillation technique before. It's the same as Once Upon a Time. One thing led to another, you know, and those would be equally poor dialogue lines. But
yada yada yada, Palpatine returned.
Yeah. Yeah, chat, let us know if it would have been better if he was like, "I don't know how this happened, but Palpatine's back." Like, how would you write that line to be consistent with Poe's knowledge of the matter and delivering the news?
Or maybe it's not so much that it's a bad line. I think it's a line that's easily memeified, and I think that makes it the popularity of the negativity surrounding it bigger. But anyways, we can keep going.
The thing I find really interesting about this word is that it was immediately roasted by fans. It basically became a meme for how rushed and lazy The Rise of Skywalker felt. And anytime a large group of people have such a strong negative reaction to a single word...
I do want to say that memes are not any indicator of legitimate criticism. like I bypassed character development. No, I mean you might have just completely missed it entirely. It could be a bad viewership problem.
Yeah, but again, certain things are more memeable than other things, and so the memeability of it is an amplifier to its quality.
Yeah. Madam Web probably has a few contenders. I'd say so, you know. I don't think the Poe line was the worst line. It's just that the plot sucked and the line encapsulates that. I don't think the line encapsulates that. I agree with you that, you know, The Rise of Skywalker was poorly executed. But I don't think that line... I think that line is a red herring for people who cannot gauge what... at least what critically doesn't work about the movie.
It's the vibe-based criticism.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna... Yeah.
Dialogue, it's definitely worth investigating and trying to understand. On its surface, the objection to this word is really obvious. As viewers, we of course want to know how Palpatine returned, because he was the saga's biggest villain, and it was pretty clear that he died. And the word somehow basically just...
You know, I mean,
we A, saw it before that, and B, had more explanation in the following line.
That's true. But also, you know, painting this or framing it as very clearly he died, so did Maul. So I want to preface this going forward. As Star Wars fans, we know no one's ever truly gone until they're gone. Right?
And even Palpatine said, "I've died before."
Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, yeah, we can keep going.
Hand waved, one of the most shocking twists in the entire saga, with the screenwriting equivalent of the shruggy emoticon. No,
wait, so you did say that... Did he say that it wasn't explained?
Yeah. Not only did he say it wasn't explained, but he also implied that it is somehow like a wild departure from what we would assume. I mean, I might be saying that incorrectly, but
right, let's run it back then.
Yeah.
Investigating and trying to understand. On its surface, the objection to this word is really obvious. As viewers, we of course want to know how Palpatine returned, because he was the saga's biggest villain, and it was pretty clear that he died. And the word somehow basically just hand-waved, one of the most shocking twists in the entire saga, with the screenwriting equivalent of the shruggy emoticon. No,
the word somehow hand-waves Poe's I suppose responsibility of knowledge for this. It's for him saying somehow, right? If you hand waved and shrugged away the explanation before it happened via the next line, the speculative nature of, you know, Beaumont Kin's lines, then you're going to walk away from the scene without any knowledge. Right? You're going to be thinking, what is this?
I don't know. I just can't parse. Fans want to know the answer to this question as being anywhere near valid criticism for the character not knowing the answer.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's actually an argument for the plot of Trust working, but the edit of the film cut out some of the most interesting parts. The group conversation with everyone and Poe's just really cheesy. I mean, I do know that there was a ton of stuff cut out, especially from the beginning of the film, that I would love to see. Again, I still maintain I want to see 7 and 8 as one movie, and then a whole nother movie, and then clean up the third movie.
Yeah, but despite what we feel about The Rise of Skywalker as a movie, I think this assessment is very fallacious, right? Because again, they do explain it. And it doesn't have to be the right explanation. You just have to know, you just have to show diegetically that the characters are now mulling over how this could happen. Right? And the scene itself is indicative of the fact that none of them know how it happens. So Poe says somehow, you could write it any other way, fine, but the fact still remains that no one in the scene knows. So they say, he's back. I don't know how. And then they go on to speculate. That is the scene structure, and you have to take it for what it is.
I agree with you that it's fallacious, but also my mind understands fallacious as being, it is a fallacy, but my mind also takes that word and connects it with fellatio.
Hulk clap!
It
Anyways,
might be tempting to criticize this dialogue merely as a bit of bad writing, and it is that, but it's also so much more than that, and in many ways it's the symptom of a much deeper sickness at the heart of this sequel trilogy, one that unfortunately squandered a lot of the potential that this trilogy had. Now, I'd like to first address those of you who might be saying, chill out, nerd. We don't need to know every little bit of minutia in the Star Wars universe in order to enjoy the film. Who cares how Palpatine returned? He's a Dark Lord of the Sith. He has many abilities some consider to be unnatural. And
I mean, those are pretty valid counter arguments. And I feel like he is hand waving those arguments the same way he's purporting the line of dialogue is hand waving the responsibility of knowledge from the scene. Right?
Yeah. I mean, if you know Star Wars, every Sith Lord is trying to obtain some form of immortality, including Palpatine, and you understand his resources and technology. Yeah. And he's come back in Legends, and yeah.
You guys are kind of doing the mirror as the guy making this video. The to make one line the issue or defending it is weird. No, we were asked to review this video. So this isn't something that we do for the sake of doing it. So let's stay on task.
And after all, this isn't.
But this isn't defending
this is
a line. This is picking apart an argument.
Yeah. I still think the line sucks too.
Yeah, it's a bad line.
His story. Well, the only problem is that the protagonist and antagonist of a story are kind of like a yin and yang situation. The shape of one determines the shape of the other, and together they should constitute a single whole. In fact, you might notice a lot of stories that have an antagonist who's purely evil have a protagonist that is purely good, or villains that have shades of gray tend to work best with heroes who have shades of gray. And what this means is that if you fail to properly give shape to your antagonist, to that precise degree, you have also failed to give shape to your protagonist, and therefore failed to tell a story with a coherent moral. If we don't really...
I don't know if this is... I don't want to purport to assume this person's knowledge or familiarity with Star Wars, but he's already fallen away from what Star Wars is, right? Because Palpatine is a pure evil, and he is he is the counter to that from the prequels to the originals is not pure good.
Yeah, Luke has never been pure good, and also Vader is still arguably the antagonist. He's, you know what I mean. Palpatine is more of a force, and then I also saw that he used Lord of the Rings as if he's implying that the opposite of Sauron is Frodo.
Well, I mean, Harith brings a good point here. He say he's doing the stereotypical YouTube tactic of muddying the well or poisoning the well of a valid response to make his argument look better than it actually is. I mean, I just think there's a fundamental I don't purport to criticize this person's understanding of storytelling. I do, however, criticize their understanding of Star Wars. because he's already gotten the yin and yang portion of it incorrect.
Yeah, but I just don't know that plays out in most stories with the hero and villain. I'd say more often than not, they don't necessarily shape each other unless the author had a very specific like message that they were trying to place in there. But like more often than not, they aren't reflections, at least not directly.
Also, to say that some characters are pure good is to kind of relinquish their agency and nuance, because Frodo many times would have fallen to the ring without Samwise.
Yeah. But then, of course, you have movies like Unbreakable, where, yes, the villain is the mirror image to the hero,
Yeah.
but that's literally
point.
the premise of the movie.
Understand what Rey is up against, then we don't really know what moral position her character represents. And without the moral center, the rest of the story just kind of falls apart. So consider Luke.
And maybe that's the other thing. I think if you're also coming into this with the perspective that that Palpatine is the antagonist, then you would be confused. But like this entire time, they've set up Kylo Ren to be her antagonist.
Yeah, that's true.
So it might also be a thing of expectations, and so you're looking left when the story's happening right, and you end up missing a lot of stuff that way.
In actuality, like given the structure of Return of the Jedi as it relates to The Rise of Skywalker, Palpatine in both movies is more of the deuteragonist than anything, because he's behind Vader and he's behind Kylo, right?
Yeah.
And in both instances, Luke, challenges him and ends up, having to be saved by some kind of plot contrivance. In this case, that's, Vader turning to the light again. And in Rey's case, it's all of the Jedi, the power of all the Jedi. It's interesting to look at these again and be like, wow, yeah, like Vader's the antagonist. Palpatine's behind him. Luke confronts Vader. Rey confronts Kylo, and it's just like.
But also using that same logic, explain the prequels to me.
There's a bunch of droids.
No, and I'm asking, like, legitimately steelman it. I'm curious if there's an argument. Is Maul the antagonist of the Phantom Menace, and does that make Maul the opposite of Padme? Of Anakin? Is Dooku the antagonist of Attack of the Clones, and is the opposite of Dooku?
No, see, I feel like at least as it relates to my biggest criticism of the prequels is that the antagonist of the Phantom Menace and the prequels is an intangible machine, right? And there's certain foils. Maul is a foil. They defeat Maul, and so the plan to free Naboo succeeds, and the story moves forward. Dooku is a foil as well, and Palpatine's behind everything. He's the larger machine, but it's intangible because he never truly comes to blows with any of our protagonists.
Yeah, I mean, he's not really actively engaged in being the adversary.
Yeah.
Again, he's pulling strings from behind the curtain. And so I don't know. It's just interesting because the point he made already doesn't work in any of the movies in the Star Wars franchise.
Dooku's the antagonist of Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. It's back to Palpatine. I don't think Dooku's the antagonist. I mean, he runs away. He gets away.
And then in Revenge of the Sith, Anakin is both the protagonist and antagonist? Or does it, at that point, split up and just be Obi-Wan and Anakin? I mean, they are foils to each other.
Well, if we consider George Lucas's words as his stories are soap operas, then it wouldn't really follow conventional protagonist and antagonist frameworks. Right? A soap opera is something that just kind of has a main conflict, a main problem, and it just has a bunch of people trying to react to the things unfolding. So it's interesting. It's interesting.
The Time Trap says something that would be fun as a fandom is to storycraft with everyone. A series with the intent to make a fan film. My point is to, rather than criticize the writing of some lackluster films, to put energy into writing something better if you can, and if done as a community, it's constructive rather than destructive, which I agree with. And we try to have those conversations a lot of like, hey, what would you rather see, rather than just tear down what it, because it's so much easier to tear down what already is. Personally, I'm working on my own IP, and I like, that's one of the things I really wish some of the channels that have spent years hating Star Wars, like, make something. You have the platform, and then you would have the control.
You have so much more tools nowadays too.
There's so much more tools. Yeah, just create your own IP, and you are now the George Lucas of your own universe. And you can create the stories that you've always wanted to hear, and show people that. I'm working on one of those right now. I think it's going to be fantastic. It's just a lot of work.
But yeah, to catch everyone up to where we're at with this video, it really doesn't have any ground to stand on. I think it's a very surface level understanding of Star Wars, and this is not me kind of saying, oh, your words don't matter because you don't know Star Wars. I'm saying he's making a lot of assumptions about story structure. He's making a lot of assumptions about characters that don't take into account what we know of these characters,
or what the characters know or don't know because they aren't watching the movie. But yeah, we can keep going.
Luke is the protagonist of the original trilogy, and that means the story is primarily about him. Now, the story is also to some degree about Vader, but only to the degree that Vader's character provides context for Luke's character. We're just going to ignore the prequels here for a second. It's the unfolding relationship between these two characters that formulates the moral argument of the story. The more we learn about Darth Vader, the more we ultimately learn about Luke. In the end, Luke will have to make a critical moral decision, and we, the audience, can only understand the morality of that decision if we also know something about the character Darth Vader. Now, you can complicate
like
that
Rey and Kylo Ren.
Yeah. I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. Like just let me know.
You
if
might go somewhere good.
Palpatine into the mix, his character complicates Darth Vader, and that in turn complicates Luke. So together, these three characters have a particular moral chemistry, and in fact, Luke's story only reaches its conclusion once the moral equation of all three characters has been fully expressed and resolved in the drama of the climax. Palpatine is pure evil, which means that Vader is to some degree a victim of evil, which means that the true act of heroism would be for Luke to save Vader from Palpatine rather than destroy Vader. In the end, that's who Luke Skywalker turns out to be, and we need it.
That's not something that's not something that's axiomatic, though. Because if we're going to ignore the prequels, if we're going to ignore context, Obi-Wan and Yoda are telling Luke, you must confront Vader, you must destroy him, or all will be lost. And only Luke is the one kind of arguing for that. So it's not axiomatic that, based on the story, Luke then has to solve this moral equation with his father to come to the solution or the conclusion.
Yeah, also, how much information did we have about Palpatine when Return of the Jedi came out?
Just that he was Emperor.
Yeah, almost nothing. Not even a name.
Yeah, it might be. It might. So I don't want to say. I don't want to use the term fallacious too much, but I feel like there is some things that he is granting unknowingly with some bias, and some things with the sequels he's not granting.
Did the characters of Vader and Palpatine in order to test Luke's true character. The point is that these characters do not exist in isolation. Each constitutes part of a whole and serves a specific purpose, and the integrity of one character depends entirely on the integrity of the others. All right, I hear you saying, relax, buddy. We don't need to know exactly how Palpatine survived. The important thing is that he's back. And besides, they said it was like cloning or something. So do we need to know the details? That's the question. Do we need to know the lore? And I think there are many different...
No. It is not pertinent to the narrative. I mean, it would be cool to know, but like knowing doesn't change how the narrative plays out moving forward. He's back.
I don't know. I don't need to know how back to healed Luke. All I know is he was in a tank with a diaper on for a minute, and then he was good.
But this is why I've always argued for, at least personally, I've always argued for extended cuts for Star Wars, because like then there could be room to do this stuff. But as
there's never enough room.
But as far as narrative,
you can add a link between here and here, and people's going to ask, well, what about between here and here?
But as far as narrative and storytelling, no, we don't need to know how he came back.
Hello, Thunderer.
I think the speculation from Beaumont Kin and everyone with cloning and Sith secrets, and then the tanks with the Snoke clones and his researchers on Exegol is ample enough visual aid to be like, oh, he's been working on this for a while. Right? This is a secret laboratory. You don't need it said by anyone.
Yeah.
Different definitions of this word lore, but one common understanding is that...
I mean, we didn't have the explanation of how the Death Stars were created. You know, neither the first or the second one. We got it later.
That aren't strictly necessary for the main plot of a story. So if you want to know the backstory of Salacious B. Crumb, you can find it. He was born on the planet Kowak and lived a life of petty crime before stowing away on a Hutt starship and being captured by Bib Fortuna. Actually, this sounds like a future video, so if you want to support me on Patreon, maybe we can do a deep dive. But you don't need to know about the lore of Crumb's checkered past in order to follow along with Luke Skywalker's story. Now, Poe Dameron's somehow treats the return of Palpatine as though it were lore, something you can learn about from Wikipedia or by playing Fortnite rather than watching the movie. And yes, that is a problem, because the...
Wait. Now we're presupposing character motivations here. Why do we assume that Poe is treating this moment as like a lore nugget, something you can learn
What's
about?
up, KG?
Why can't we see this line for what it is and just say he doesn't know, but he has to report anyway that Palpatine's back? It's as simple as that. Like we're there's too much baggage with this claim. I'm going to repeat it again.
As though it were lore. Now, Poe Dameron's somehow treats the return of Palpatine as though it were lore, something you can learn about from Wikipedia or by playing Fortnite rather than watching the movie. And yes, that is a problem, because...
No, that's not... We're like I said, we're assigning way too much baggage with the word somehow. And I don't think it's meant to act as a, hey, You can learn about this in other media. It's just, I don't know. What do you think? I've already said Poe doesn't know, and
yeah, we can just move forward.
The entire story of Star Wars kind of hinges on Palpatine. He's the antagonist. There's a literal prophecy that a hero would destroy him, and the saga culminates in his ultimate destruction. So while it's true that we don't need to know exactly,
that's not what the prophecy says. But whatever.
Palpatine survived, we do need to know why he returned, because the fact that he returned has profound implications.
We have mountains of evidence as to why he returned. He is a Sith. Their whole shtick is power, control, immortality, and dominion. That's all you need to know. It's not like he came back and was like, oh, I left the stove on.
What do I do now? He comes back and he's like an artist. Listen, I tried Conqueror. Just want to mix it up.
Yeah, I need to listen to this again because, like... Ugh. Hold on.
True that we don't need to know exactly how Palpatine survived. We do need to know why he returned, because the fact that he returned has profound implications for the previous films, essentially rendering Luke and Anakin's sacrifices futile, which is kind of a big deal. It's a
No, it doesn't. It doesn't at all. If we go back
said
to
it before, I said again, Anakin sacrificed himself to save his son. Palpatine coming back doesn't unsave Luke. That's stupid. It also doesn't he also brought balance to the Force, and the galaxy got to basically start over anew. It doesn't undo that as well. Like, it's 2026 and we're still fighting Nazis. It doesn't negate the end of World War II. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry, that's just retarded.
We also, again, this relates back to him presupposing that the word somehow is treating the how Palpatine came back as a piece of lore you can learn. But if you're only going to reach that conclusion if you ignore the prequels. One of the key things that Palpatine talks to Anakin about is, if we work together, we can learn this power. It's all about...
Yeah, he literally lured Anakin to the dark side with the secret of learning eternal life.
And then, like, as Harith says in the chat, you're telling me the man who's the puppet master behind a 3-year war didn't have a plan just in case his apprentice betrays him. And this is not even like going into the comics or the books or anything like that. Like, he wants to rule the galaxy. That is the why of it all.
Yeah, it's ultimately coming into the films with a preconceived notion, and then the movie doesn't do that thing, and then you work backwards to say why you dislike it, and then you fixate on a single point, right? But I mean, if you think about it, actually, to me, and I didn't like Palpatine's return initially until I started thinking about it. And like what we see in The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi is not Palpatine's endgame. You know what I mean? Like, this Palpatine is still in the process of making the galaxy the way he wants it to be when those movies are happening. Yeah. We're just getting close to the point of no return, and that's when, Anakin turns back, and we stop it from going any further than that. But his goal was to bring back the Sith Empire, to remake the galaxy in his own image.
And that's been since episode 1.
That was his goal from episode 1. In fact, he already ruled the galaxy before episode 1 started. He just did it from behind the scenes. And then he made it legitimate, and then so it actually made perfect sense for him to come back with the Sith fleet, the Sith Armada, right? Because that was his actual endgame.
And that's another thing as well, that is quite fallacious about this premise and this claim. This is a saga, right? And so now we have to include everything up until that point. We can't discount Palpatine's motivations from the start and be like, okay, does he have new ones? Right? And just like 50 Thunder in the chat says, Poe reported somehow Palpatine returns the same way I would report a problem at work. Somehow we're out of coffee. Now we don't know, and we don't need to know how we're out of coffee, but we need to know why we're out of coffee. Right? It's the same thing.
Yeah, I actually did. Now that you say it, I had the same thing at work. I was like, something clogged the toilet.
Of course, I'm being facetious here. Like, the why of it is irrelevant. You guys drink coffee, you're going to run out. But essentially, that is the case here. Like, we already know, as Star Wars fans, we have watched 1 through 6 and Clone Wars before 7, 8, and 9 came out. We are filled with an economy of knowledge that helps us deduce the why of it all. Palpatine wants to live forever. He wants to rule the galaxy, bring back the Sith Empire. Those questions are not present. The only reason you'd be asking that is if you want to make a big deal out of this dialogue.
Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like we've watched it, or he hasn't made the claim that it's the worst in the entire history of film yet. So I guess we still have that.
Yeah, I'll give him a couple minutes.
At least something that the writers of Star Wars ought to care about. Now, I know that this movie is many years old by now, and that this horse has been well beaten, but I'm spelling it out because I want to justify the claim in the title of this video that the word somehow is in fact the worst word of dialogue ever written, or at least the most destructive. It really is.
Oh, you know what? I might have been a little bit. My arguments and my counter arguments still stand. But now I know for sure he's talking about somehow being the worst word. But my argument still stands. It does a lot of heavy lifting, but it's not the worst word you can use. Like, I can imagine this line being like, Palpatine's back, and we're like, how? How?
Yeah, I mean, I can think of a worse word. He could be like, nigga. Palpatine's return.
Sweet Christmas.
I just
listen. I just know that these superlatives are getting out of hand. Like, there's nothing more worse than Dragon Ball Evolution. Even the word somehow.
In a different league from other examples of bad dialogue. Like when Anakin says to Obi-Wan in the throes of passionate hatred for his former best friend, from my point of view, the Jedi are evil. That is terrible dialogue. And this is one area that George Lucas, by his own admission, does not excel in. And if you're looking for bad dialogue, Star Wars has some great nuggets. But they're nowhere near as bad because they're surface level infractions, sort of like a bad coat of paint on an otherwise functional car. Poe Dameron's line is bad because it fundamentally compromises the narrative integrity of the entire Star Wars saga.
No, it doesn't.
Whoa! that was crazy.
Wait. That entire
that was amazing.
That entire sentence went from, this thing is about like surface level, but then it undermines. Okay, we need to rewind that again.
Star Wars has some great nuggets, but they're nowhere near as bad because they're surface level infractions, sort of like a bad coat of paint on an otherwise functional car. Poe Dameron's line is bad because it fundamentally compromises the narrative integrity of the entire Star Wars saga.
No, it doesn't. At all.
Hey, no. Listen. Hear me out. It's using the word somehow not only compromises the integrity, but it stole my car. It beat my wife. It killed my father. It drove to the store and it took my credit card and it bought a whole bunch of stuff and it sold my identity. And then it, I don't like, I don't understand this is insane. Like
acknowledging
listen,
that Star
Fantastic
Wars...
Four just came out, and even that had less of a stretch in it. Like there's Luffy would be like shocked. You know what I mean?
To go to like, okay, so KB Sabers said TikTok, shout out to KB Sabers, saying that was an astronomical leap. It was boundless. To go from Star Wars is filled with bad dialogue, but those are surface level infractions, like a bad coat of paint. And then somehow Palpatine returned undermines the very foundation of Star Wars. I'm like, now I can go back to it ain't that deep. Or Harrison Ford saying, it ain't that kind of movie, kid. Like, he doesn't know how he came back. He's reporting that he's back. What is he going to say? You could write it any number of times. He'll never know. And he'll always express, I don't know, somehow, in some way, shape, or form. And I don't expect Poe to be as studied on the methodology with which a Sith can come back like Beaumont can. And that's why Beaumont delivers the speculative line.
Yeah, no, I'm out. I can't. I can't do it. Like this.
I just want to hear his reasoning for saying something like that.
Which is arguably the most popular and beloved hero myth of the modern age. And that means it has real cultural significance, and that's probably why fans seized on it as a major point of criticism. I don't know if you've watched Return of the Jedi since seeing The Rise of Skywalker.
Okay, so he doesn't substantiate or back up that claim at all. Or am I pausing it too early? He literally just says it undermines the very foundation of Star Wars and then moved on.
I don't know. I don't even have anything more to say of the video. It's
guys.
I like his beard.
Guys. I don't know what to say. It's the same thing with like Literature Devil. It's the same thing with like, you know, I don't know this channel, and I'm not gonna spread hate about the art of storytelling, and certainly don't go to their channel and harass them, but like, it almost makes me feel like, not the Guild, but it was that
great show.
That show you made me watch that was on HBO, and it had that writer on it, Mythic Quest, who was like, it makes me feel like that's the guy that sits around with the typewriter and he's like, I know everything about storytelling and I'm gonna come off like that. But I have to warn everyone to this type of content. I don't know this channel, but like, just because the intro has a typewriter and it's called The Art of Storytelling does not afford us the right to presuppose any credibility. If he cannot parse the story of Star Wars enough so that somehow Palpatine returned ruins the foundation of Star Wars, that's not someone you should take seriously, at least as it relates to Star Wars.
Yeah, there's just a certain thing of Star Wars being such a large part of a lot of our childhood, a lot of our growing up, a lot of our development. And when something to our perspective shakes what we loved about this thing, I think sometimes people can just turn feral. And so someone who could be an excellent storyteller maybe didn't study the craft of storytelling until after their love of Star Wars. Maybe Star Wars is what prompted them to study it, but they're unable to separate their core beliefs from what is actually there, and that leads them down a dark path. It's kind of my benefit of the doubting for this individual.
Yeah,
that's just my headcanon for him.
Craig McGuinn says he didn't even say what he believes the foundation of Star Wars is, and that was my chief criticism coming out of that video. When you say that the bad dialogue in Star Wars has always been present, there's surface level infractions, but this line undermines the very foundation, and then he hopped to it, crossed the street, and didn't substantiate that claim at all. What is being undermined? What is this foundation you speak of? And so, like, we addressed most of the arguments in the video. We didn't need to know how Palpatine returned, but they speculated. They didn't even need to know why, because we know why already. We've watched the saga. And even then, I've spoken to people who got their start in Star Wars on the sequels. They didn't need to know why Palpatine was back. They just knew that he was the big bad. Harris says, I need to see the script for this video essay. Bro writes one of the worst claims I've ever seen that doesn't back it up. Yeah. Anyways, before we get into our main topic, I do want to play this game before we get into the main topic.
Okay.
This is Guess the Saber. And this is a series of sabers in scenes that have been blurred. It's kind of like in the vein, it's inspired by Podwans, but like it's
shout
also,
out to Podwans podcast and Harris.
But it's also in the vein of like guess the movie from the first frame. So it's kind of like we're gonna give you guys like a blurred image and then you guys guess it, okay? All right. So all right, so let us know if you guys are ready in chat to guess.
So how many levels are there?
There's 4 levels of blur.
4 levels. All right.
The 4th level being clear.
Okay. So if you guess it on the first one, it's 3 points. Second, 2 points. If you guess it when it's clear, you get 0 points. All right.
Can you keep track of the points? Just for chat?
No. We're going to use the honor system. Y'all keep track of your own goddamn points.
Oh, okay. So Choco's playing this as well. That's true. He didn't have any part in putting this together, so he can participate. Are you guys ready for the first Guess the Saber? So yes, you do type answers, and I will tell you.
But we won't tell you. He won't tell you until we get to clear.
Yeah.
So everyone can keep guessing.
I will tell you when the next stage of the photo has been set. So like if nobody gets it, obviously I'm going to move on. So I'm going to give you guys some time. This is the first saber in question. All right, it's getting clearer. Remember, guys, honor system. If you feel like you've gotten it, chalk it up. Moving to a clear.
Chalk it up.
And obviously, if it weren't clear enough, now we're also using the honor system in here because we could accept Anakin Saber, Luke Saber. Do we accept Rey's saber at this point in the chronology?
Ooh.
That's the thing. Is it her saber yet?
We do accept the Youngling Slayer 3000.
The toys called it Rey's saber? Whatever you need to tell yourself, Nemo.
It's honor system. I put Skywalker saber, but it is what it is.
Okay.
I will say and I assume also Harith just recalled the color grading of the scene.
All right, here's your next saber. It's getting clearer.
I think
I think. Methinks.
I think we got it.
I'm going in like 20-second bursts.
No, but I mean when everyone's got it.
Okay. Boom. Boom. Yes, it is Rey's lightsaber. That's why I'm saying, is it Rey's lightsaber? Because this is Rey's lightsaber. Okay? It's going to get harder from here on out. As it always does. Your next lightsaber.
I don't even see a lightsaber.
Ha! Is there a saber there? I suppose to answer Harith's question, yeah, you only get one guess. Right?
Yeah, that makes sense. You should only do one, meaning if you don't got it. Yeah, so this is our first run, and then we'll refine.
All right, boom. Boom. Boom.
It's beautiful. Look at it.
Now, if you guessed Ben Solo saber, you're wrong, Nemo. You only get one guess, guys.
That was a great guess, Harith. I still got it first.
Hoth
Yeah,
Wampa
ignore me.
layer? Okay. Next saber.
Come on.
I didn't say how difficult it would get.
My boy.
This is Easy Street. Hey, listen, we got 10 of these. So don't speak too soon.
Except I can't, I can't look at the scene and not think of Miss Aggie. It's forever ruined.
All right, next stage. Essentially, I'm giving everyone 20 seconds to guess, and you only get one guess. But it looks like to me everyone got it. So boom, boom. Kylo's in The Last Jedi. Next, Saber, you have 20 seconds to guess. Ding.
I was like, man, I keep answering a lot faster than everyone. I'm like, oh yeah, no, they have lag.
Next stage. Next stage. We got some Obi-Wans in here. How do we decide? That is, in fact, Qui-Gon's saber. Obi-Wan's fell.
Faster. Obi-Wan specifically was kicked in.
Was it the same?
The designs were similar, but not the same. But again, Obi-Wan's that he was fighting and was very specifically kicked into the pit by Maul.
Yeah, I mean, this is a frame from the movie, so it would be specifically Qui-Gon's saber.
Yeah, Nemo, same. I'm just guessing based off of the color grading of the scene.
All right, we might go into.
Gives me an idea for the next iteration of doing more like guess what's being said.
Next saber. It's also not my fault that the sequels have the best camera angles for sabers.
That's true. Not only that, but the thing that makes it easy is it's only been since the sequels came out that they could use a film saber that lights up, so it creates ambient glow.
Yeah. Uh-oh, Nemo might have gotten that wrong. Clearer.
Ah, you hate that the film sabers light things up. Interesting.
And clear. There is, in fact, Ben in the background, though. All right. This might be a little bit more difficult.
Little baby Ben in the background. I mean, he's like 24, but little baby Ben.
This might be a little bit more difficult.
Ooh, hold on.
Yeah, now we're in business. God damn it. Ooh. All right, it's getting clear. Ready?
All right, I'm throwing it out there. Oh, hello there. It's a random saber.
Not exactly. Also in the chat, if you guys want me to speed it up, you guys can type in next slide or something. Next.
Speed it up a little. Man, I'm still quoting I Love Lucy. Oh.
I don't think anybody's gotten it. Which is what I hoped.
I didn't get it.
Nope.
Oh.
All right, it's getting clearer.
It's funny, you can't really see my cat in the frame. There's just a pot. Oh, wow, yeah.
And it's getting clear. That is the Darksaber. All right. Finally, something that's not immediately recognizable. Shout out to KB Sabers for the Darksaber Rebels edition. All right. Next saber.
I know whose hand it is. Ow! 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 Thane. Speaking of maul, I just got mauled.
All right, it's getting clearer.
You cat bastard. Yeah, I should have known.
Next one. Shout out to Harith. That's Maul saber being handed to Maul by Savaja Press. All right. We got 2 more sabers to guess. I think this one's easy. Here we go. Ooh. Ew. I'm gonna make it clear, guys. Here we go.
Is he crying?
It looks like it, huh? Did you get it from the jump? I don't think you did. All right, clear. And clear. That is during the gathering, yes, when Yoda shows his saber to all of the younglings.
Yep.
I don't think you got it there, Craig. All right, last saber. This might be.
But for a second, I thought it might be Jet. What's his name?
Oh, Petro?
Yeah.
All right, last saber, guys.
It's a speeder. It looks like a very fuzzy, like, Event Horizon.
Oh, yeah. Someone said helicopter saber. Interesting. I'm waiting for. Do you want to go to the next one or?
Yeah, okay. I mean, I got nothing. I'm
All
only
right.
doing one guess for each.
Here we go.
Hey!
I can't tell anymore. The blur is messing with my eyes. That's the point, Nemo. That's the point.
God, I love that saber. Look at it. It's so glorious. So smooth.
All right, we're going clear now. And then we're going clear. Yeah. All
My
right, guys.
boy!
Tally up your scores. Tally ho. I'm going to judge Choco's score. Well, no, most of these are on frame 1, right?
Most of them, except for the ones that I got wrong. And for Gunji's, which I got on frame 2. So I wrote 2.
Why'd you write Darksaber again after Ezra?
I didn't. I got excited when I figured out what it was. But yes, don't count that.
So frame 1 is like 3 points, right?
Yeah, frame 1 being 3 points, frame 2 being 2 points, and then 1 point, and then 0.
Oh, 20 points. Choco got 20 points, guys. Tally up your scores. Let us know what you guys got. This is sort of like our
The
first
pilot.
Yeah. We'll definitely figure out like the logistics of it moving forward. And then Choco, of course, will have his whatever he does, guess the planet or something. I think next week.
But I mean, we could do this on all sorts of different topics. So we'll do planets, we'll do ships, we'll do. I also want to do guess the line. Like it'll be a scene, and you have to guess the line from that scene.
Oh, the scene is blurred.
The scene will be blurred, but I'm a take him from screenshots with the captions on.
Oh.
And there'll be bigger lines, you know.
There was 10, yes, Harith. The values are, if you got it on the first frame, it's 3 points. If you got it on the second frame, it's 2. The third frame is 1 point, and the last frame is 0 points.
Hey, Malik was gifted Star Wars Villainous. Screw you. No, I'm kidding.
Harith
Good
got
job,
25
Harith.
points. I think I'm going to go with next week. I'm
That's
going to go
25
with
out of 30. That's great.
next week. I'm going to go with guess that hairstyle. Hey, there's a lot of close-ups on people in Star Wars. It's easy to do. Also, I'm gonna let you know beforehand how I formatted the directory so that the slideshow goes in order. That's essentially what I did, all the way up to.
Okay, that makes sense.
D being the clear one of that one. I just got back to the stream after a phone call, so I got 0 points. Well, smart guy. Lucky for you. I've got trivia questions so that you can participate. KB Saber's got 17 total. All right, you guys can play along with smart guy, but I just want to let smart guy participate in this game. I'm going to file these cards. Choco's going to tell me to stop, and then I will ask smart guy the questions from that card.
Stop.
All right. In the chat, you can participate as well. Let's see. Which Imperial general leads the assault on Hoth? Who finds Luke Skywalker and Han Solo after the pair go missing during a perilous blizzard? Rogue 2, Rogue 3, Rogue 1. How do the Snowspeeders defeat the mighty four-legged AT-AT? Why does Princess Leia send all troops from Sector 12 to the South Slope during the invasion of Echo Base?
Oh.
After Han Solo and Chewbacca discover an Imperial probe droid on Hoth, who orders an immediate evacuation of Echo Base? I'll let everybody file in their answers, and then I will go over the answers. Okay. Which Imperial general leads the assault on Hoth? That would be General Veers. So that is correct on the chat. Who finds Luke Skywalker and Han Solo after they go missing? That would be Rogue 2. How do the Snowspeeders defeat the mighty four-legged AT-ATs or AT-ATs? They're tow cables and harpoons. So if you said tow cables, that was correct. Shout out to Smart Guy. Why does Princess Leia send all troops from Sector 12 to the South Slope during the invasion of Echo Base? We got a pass from Smart Guy. That it was to protect the fighters. The X-Wings. After Han Solo and Chewbacca discover an Imperial probe droid on Hoth, who orders an immediate evacuation of Echo Base? And if you answered Riken, you'd be correct. All right. I love having this deck on deck. All right. Let's move on to our main segment, guys. Something that I ask in the title of this episode. The New Republic timeline. You know, with the introduction of The Mandalorian, we thought we were getting small nuggets here and there. With The Bad Batch, we're getting small nuggets here and there. Ahsoka, small nuggets. But it seems to me that it's shaping up to become its own timeline. So now we have the Civil War timeline, New Republic timeline, sequel timeline. And I feel like they're gearing up to make this the sequel prequels. What do you think?
And yeah, I mean, I think this is kind of no. This is where we've been heading for a hot minute, and I feel like this is kind of what some in the fan base have been asking for. You know, whether you loved or hated the sequels. You know, if you hated them, then you're like, man, I want George Lucas's sequels. And what they're referring to is the stuff that he wrote that we're getting in like Maul Shadow Lord, because what his sequels were, quote unquote, at least the ones from the Big Red Book, is all honestly a prequel to the sequel trilogy that we got. Like it all still exists there. But everything that we've been getting, this whole Filoni-verse, is
I got the small red book.
that. Yeah.
I don't
you
know
get
if
the black
it has...
one too?
No.
It does have it. It has all the same stuff. You just have little images.
The black one's next. But I found it funny that there was a small red one.
Yeah. No, but Harith, what we're saying is more that this is not. We're not telling stories that lead to TFA. We're saying that this is its own time period now.
Yeah.
Right. This is no longer considered connective tissue. Like, honestly, I would argue that Clone Wars is no longer connective tissue for the prequels. Clone Wars has its own era, right? Its own
There's a lot of
sub-era.
stories in there.
You know, like to the extent where you could be a prequel fan, but not a Clone Wars fan, right? Or not a Filoni fan. You know what I mean? Like, there's enough stories in there that it does constitute its own time period. And I'm feeling like they are building this out to be its own thing. At least that's what I'm hoping for. What's up, Lowrider? KB, you disagree? And yeah. What are you thinking, KB? Love to hear it.
Well, I mean, so I'm somewhere in the middle. I think this is sequel prequel territory where like it tells its own story and it establishes its own status quo. But assuredly, as it relates to the New Republic and the politics therein, we're going to get some first order nuggets. We're going to get some story elements that provide us that provide us with narrative context to, like, you know, it might be the story about the heir to the Empire with Thrawn, the Shadow Council, and Mando and Ahsoka and Baylan Skoll's journey and stuff like that. But in the background, we're also seeing sympathizers infiltrate the New Republic and start to do this thing where we're experiencing bloodline. Some things in bloodline.
Yeah,
that's where I'm at.
And I'm right with you, KG. Give me a Luke's Jedi Academy. Here's the thing: it will connect. I'm not saying it won't. It has to, right? That's just how Star Wars works. But I don't want stories that are telling. You know, the purpose of Rogue One is to set up, you know, A New Hope, right?
You don't
like
want you don't want the crux of this story to be the beginning of TFA.
Give me an independent story about Luke starting his Jedi school and adventures with those kids, right? It's in between here and here. We're gonna see nuggets of stuff. We're gonna hear Snoke's voice in Ben's head, but the story is about this, right? Give me another Rebels show that's about a random crew of people that we've never seen or heard of before, and then just tell me their story of like them existing in this galaxy that's in this weird time of turmoil where the Imperials, who were working hand in hand with the criminal empires, has been destroyed and the New Republic hasn't come in yet, and so there's no bigger fish that are destroying these cartels and they're fighting over territory. Give me that story.
Yeah.
Give me the connective tissue, sure, but just give me that story itself.
Kibby says, I think what we're getting now is more of an explanation to what happened during the 25 to 30 year gap. And that much can be true at the same time that they provide a fully insular story that could be the crux of this timeline. I think that's at least that's where I'm standing. That's where I'm understanding Choco, in which, like I said, the crux isn't like the beginning of TFA. Like we need a start and an end to this timeline, but like of course we're going to get like nuanced cameos and nuggets that be like, oh hey, that's Ransom Casterfo, you know, or
no,
you know, evidence of sympathizers setting up funding for the First Order. We're gonna get that stuff regardless, but we need like a story of Rogue One where the ending is that team sacrificed themselves to get the plans.
And what I said about the Clone Wars specifically is like, if the Clone Wars was just about Anakin and his journey between these two films, then I would call that just connective tissue. But I feel like most of the Clone Wars were insular stories about battles, and we got introduced to troopers and had their growth arcs, and villains that had their entire arcs play out in this small little window of space, and all the stuff happening on Mandalore, and all the stuff with Ahsoka being our viewpoint into what's going on with the Jedi Order and what's happening on the separatist movements and all this stuff. And those are all things that are just not in the movies, right? It's not in episode 2, and it's not in episode 3, and it wasn't hinted at any of those. So those plot points don't connect the two. They are their own thing that happen in between these two. At least that's how I perceive it. But if you disagree, that's cool. You do you.
No, I think everybody. So this is where I come down on it. Like especially when people are like, "Let's make a movie that the fans want." It's like, well, just evidenced by our chat, everybody has different wants and desires of what they want in a story. So, I think for the most part, we're never going to get a movie that satisfies every single one fan. You put us all in a room together, we're all going to write a different story.
Yeah, and that's something Time Chad was saying in the chat, that we should like crowdsource a fan film, and we were kind of too busy, in the throes of that video for me to focus on it or to break from what we were saying.
We wouldn't be able to do that though.
Yeah, it's just too wide a variety, and by doing that, you would honestly end up with something terrible, or just flashy, right? You just have lightsaber battles and explosions,
I want to run an experiment right here, right now, and it can start with Choco, but I want the chat. I'm going to provide the premise for a show, and I want chat to give me your best answer to my prompt, okay? And then Choco can participate as well. So we are doing a show about Luke's Jedi Academy, and it is set in the New Republic era, and he is going around recruiting younglings that he has found, along with other survivors and along with Lor San Tekka. Someone gets in his way, and that is the main conflict. Now, chat, who gets in his way, what happens, and how do you think Luke solves that? I want to see how different everyone writes this. Thought experiment. Just kind of give me like a rundown, chat, of who gets in his way and how does Luke solve it. I mean, we already have 3 wildly different answers. How far into the New Republic era? I'd say the same timeline as Ahsoka. Let's see. Herod says not to do Rise of Kylo Ren, but I would do Knights of Ren as well, because having Luke being confronted by the cult of Vader would be the most interesting antithesis for his character.
Okay. And
Cal said, I'm the outlier who wasn't listening to the prompt, so we're getting a feature-length film about Gungan diplomacy with Naboo. After Return of the Jedi, Luke meets an aged Jar Jar and they eat bugs together. So what you're telling me is that Jar Jar gets in Luke's way. No, that's cool. I mean, Cal, essentially what I'm trying to experiment here is how many different ways can we write a Luke show with everyone's kind of like inbuilt biases. You know, we have who gets in Luke's way. You know, we have Knights of Ren, we have a Thrawn, we have a Snoke, and then of course you came in with Jar Jar. 50 Thunder 26 says Mara Jade gets in his way.
Yeah.
This is before Ben goes to the academy? Yeah.
So, you want to know what mine is?
Sure.
Talon Card gets in his way. Talon Card and the Smugglers Alliance. You know what? I think it'd be cool to have a story where, you know, because of all the lawlessness that's happening in the galaxy, there are smugglers who are kind of running protection for each other. And so there ends up being this third entity, this additional entity that pops up to protect itself. But they're not bad guys. They're not gangsters or anything. But they're more like vigilante styled, and you know, so they're you know, chaotic good, really.
Sort of like the Ashiga.
And that's where Luke meets Mara Jade.
Her name is Mara Jade Ashiga.
And he just kisses that little shell on her face.
Let's see. Smart Guy says new character gets in the way. Maybe a Legends pull Darksider or bureaucrats, even from the New Republic. Oh, interesting.
Loretta says Mara Jade should not be canon. I disagree. She should be canon, but she should come along later and be a love interest for Rey.
She should come a long time.
So mad.
Mara Jar Jade.
The Tashi Station gets in his way. It's the exact opposite of the other.
Let's see. KB says I'd say Thrawn gets in his way, and that's what starts the big war that Filoni hinted at. Ahsoka and Sabine come back with Shin as a new ally just in time to help the Academy. We're still getting like a very like a wide spectrum of answers.
Should Galen Merrick be canon? Yes.
I don't think you should be Vader's apprentice though.
I do, but not quite. But not truly.
Then you'd have to bring in Lumia and all of his other apprentices.
No. My idea was that is that he's being raised by either the cultivator or the
cultivator. I've broken through.
The acolytes of beyond, right? As people who worship the Sith, and they are training this Force-sensitive child to be the next Sith Lord should Palpatine or Vader fall. And he thinks that he is the heir apparent to Vader. Why does he think this? Because Proxy exists, and Proxy has been Vader this whole time, training him. And then I want him to have to face off against Luke, because he's hunting Luke, because Luke is Anakin's son. Galen Merrick considers himself to be Vader's son. They are both think they're heirs to the same legacy, and so only one of them can truly stand.
You serious?
100%.
No, that's interesting. We have another. It always comes down to heir to the, doesn't it?
You know, I just the purpose of the character of Starkiller was written to be kind of a what if someone with Luke's power level was evil. And so that's if we were to bring him in, that's the core of the character that I would like to keep. Now, other people might have a different core to the character that they would want to keep, but that's how I think of him.
Well, we did get a Ezra gets in Luke's way. If you answered Ezra gets in Luke's way, how do you justify that? Like, I'm not looking for an entire story. You don't have to write it, but like, why would Ezra get in Luke's way? That's interesting.
Stinky gets in his way, and then he's like, "Oh, your dad saved me," and then they become friends.
I mean, but it's not like you can't give Vader an apprentice because, of course, you know, Anakin was given a Padawan that was never before mentioned. It's true. It's true. I just don't want that. No, hear me out. If we ever do some type of like
Domina Tag gets in his way.
If we ever do some type of like clashing claims to royalty or whatever, the clashing monarchy, as it were, and we were to bring like Mara Jade into it or Galen Merrick, I would want them to be apprentices to an opposing Sith ideology. Just like how we had, you know, the Lost Tribe of the Sith on Kesh, there would be some people out there that do not subscribe to Palpatine's agenda. Just like in SOTOR, we had the whole Dark Council. They all disagreed on how they would go about with conquest. So I think different ideologies would emerge, and you would have, let's say, a Sith Lord from Kesh that comes in with Mara Jade, and they have a completely different outlook on the dark side that flies in the face of what we know. And that challenges Luke. I mean, we did kind of get that in Shadow of the Sith with Kiza and Panchard, but like, I mean, that's essentially where my mind goes. Let Vader rest. I have this idea of Luke running afoul of is this a chicken joke coming up? Is this a chicken joke? I have this idea of Luke running afoul of a corrupt government on planets in the Outer Rim that deals with slavery and authoritarianism. Something where he has to help the people free themselves. Okay, so it wasn't a chicken joke. Apologies. It's just the way foul was spelled. I mean, that's interesting too. I feel like we did get a lot of really interesting and different answers, but I always find it interesting how people can make the government stand in Luke's way while continuing to maintain that both the government and Luke are neither like motivated by the dark side. You know what I mean? Because then you have Imperial sympathizers, but what do you do about like genuinely New Republic interests in mind actors that disagree with Luke?
I mean, you're describing what I want to happen with Rey's New Jedi Order. I want the galaxy to be like, do we actually need Jedi anymore? You know?
Yeah.
Because you guys seem to be messing stuff up. And then they have to, you know, kind of prove it.
Dr. Evison gets in his way?
Dr. Afra gets in someone's way, usually her own way.
Now, if we do Dr. Evazan gets in his way, does that mean Evazan has an additional death sentence on an additional star system? All of these are interesting ideas. Exactly. I mean, that's why I prompted it. I was like, we really can't reach consensus as to what stories we want to tell, and that's essentially the crux of being a fan of an IP. We are consumers of it, and whoever is in charge of writing these stories, we have to consume it, and we have to take it in and engage with those stories.
Also, earlier, Lowrider asked if when the Clone Wars first came out, did you like the idea of Anakin having a Padawan? No, I did not. I didn't hate Ahsoka as a character, though, but I didn't like the idea of him having it, and I hated the art style.
For me, on a fundamental level, the more you put him in the shoes of Obi-Wan, the less likely he's justified in falling down that path. Now, they were able to do it because obviously they had already written him without a Padawan, and they had already written him falling, so they had to make Ahsoka leave. But like,
I think a lot of people start to blame the Jedi because aspects of his fall don't super match up with, in their head, the character from the Clone Wars.
Yeah. No, I mean, I get it. If I take the Clone Wars in isolation, Anakin has ample opportunity to leave the Jedi. He has ample opportunity to learn that the decisions he's making is horrible decisions. He has the anecdotal experience of his own Padawan being unjustly accused and leaving the Order. All of these experiences in a vacuum be like, this is not as deep as I thought it was. You know what I mean? Like
it's, on one hand, it feels like they wanted to be like, no, this shows that he should have known better and still chose wrong. You know, this shows him making a bigger mistake, but that's just not how I feel everyone took it. To Harith, oh, go ahead.
Well, Lowrider says Ahsoka leaving the Order actually did cause Anakin to lose a lot of faith in the Order. That's what I mean. So outside of the Clone Wars, he fell. He didn't have a Padawan, and so he was largely kind of this rebellious antithesis to Obi-Wan. But you give him a Padawan, and a lot of those relationship issues start to kind of manifest in lessons that he's teaching Ahsoka. And so less and less it feels like Anakin should fall. He should have plenty of context and experience with Ahsoka to kind of practically apply the teachings to himself. And that's why they needed to have Ahsoka leave. That's what I'm saying.
And that's why Yoda did it in the first place. You know, you're less rebellious when you understand the ramifications of someone under you being super rebellious. But Harris says, I feel like Mara Jade being part of the Sith Eternal makes her character better. One of my issues with Heir to the Empire is Mara Jade just randomly hunting Luke. I feel like Mara Jade post-Tross hunting Rey as the last remnant of the Sith Eternal or Final Order would make sense. Kind of like she's a secret acolyte to do his dirty work in the sequels. Yeah, so it was super weird in those books, the way they had written it so that Palpatine had like implanted in her brain that she had to kill Luke, and it would just be it was just really bizarre. But yeah, that's kind of like, you know, what I've been pitching for a long time is I want her to be the Force sensitive offspring to Palpatine worshippers from the Sith Eternal, right? So that she's raised in this cult and she doesn't know any better, but they don't even view her as their kid. They view her as a weapon for them, you know, for Palpatine to wield. And so that's why you would have someone like her be able to find her own agency once she like confronts Rey and Rey refuses to kill her, you know?
Yeah. essentially, as we start to wrap things up for this episode, what I want to impress on everyone else is that regardless of how the New Republic timeline connects narratively to the sequels as a prequel era for the sequels, we also recognize that in 30 years, many a story can happen. And so we don't need every single story to be leading to the Force Awakens. We don't need Balin's story and his hunt for whatever is calling to him need to be consequential to what happens in the sequels. We don't need Ahsoka or Sabine. As Choco said earlier, like, there are plenty of stories that can be told that is insular, that has a start and an end, and has nothing to do with the Force Awakens. But of course, we'll show certain nuggets here and there that, obviously the time moves. You're going to get those small Easter eggs, but in 30 years, more than one story can be told. I can find 20 stories to tell, and we've along with the chat have talked about at least 10 stories that we can tell within the New Republic timeline that can be told, that doesn't fly in the face of any kind of long-standing continuity in between.
Oh, Princess Darkness, I loved your idea as well, and I would like to pitch it as, instead of him going up against a corrupt government, he catches up with Pax and Rahara, and they take down the Circa Corps.
You just want Pax and Rahara back. Do you think Star Wars works better as sci-fi or fantasy? Fantasy
for sure. A lot of Legends EU feels more sci-fi versus the current canon EU, where they focus more on the fantasy. Yeah, it was always intended to be more of a fantasy. I mean, George always called it an opera, and he... I think Star Wars is at its best when it's getting weird.
I think Star Wars is at its best when they can make sci-fi out of its fantasy. You take the technology of the Death Star and the Empire, you talk about fusion reactors and antimatter cores, laser technology, you read Catalyst and you're like, this makes sense. They can make this laser in real life. We just need kyber crystals. I think a lot of...
The way in Catalyst they find out about realigning crystals, which is what people do through the Force, is so cool.
The way that Star Wars and its writers have been able to take fantasy and kind of, I suppose,
sprinkle science on it.
Yeah, jerry-rig some sci-fi into it to make it kind of make a little sense. I recently watched a video by a nuclear physicist who was talking about the technology of Star Wars versus Star Trek. And it was like the Star Destroyer versus an Enterprise. And he was talking about like payloads and orders of magnitude in terms of energy output, and how if a Star Destroyer has the ability to glass a planet, then the Enterprise doesn't stand a chance. Like it is like very much science-y power scaling, but like if you think about the turbo lasers in terms of like orders of magnitude of like joules and stuff, and like nuclear payloads and stuff, it's like, oh my gosh, these are devastating weapons. So it's interesting. Like, Star Wars has always been fantasy. They lean towards the fantastical. But even then, a lightsaber makes a bit of science sense. You have a kyber crystal that amplifies the power of a power cell. You have a lens that controls its length, and you have an energizer field that creates a magnetic field that encapsulates the plasma so that it doesn't dissipate into the air. It scientifically makes sense. We just don't have the power and the tech to do that yet. But you can imagine so. You can imagine it.
What is it that Orin from Jack of All Trades says when he amplifies his?
What does he say?
I can't remember, but that's basically what a kyber crystal does. Right before he makes contact, and he uses his spell to amplify his attack.
Oh, impact?
Yeah.
Yeah. In 30 years, my story will have been told and probably forgotten about. Nah. We'll be talking about it on episode 1000 of DYAD in the Force. But yeah, the future looks promising indeed. With Ahsoka coming out, with Maul Shadow Lord, with Mando and Grogu, and even Starfighter. We stand to gain a lot in terms of narrative and a lot of connective tissue from New Republic to the sequels. But even then, we can have our kind of insular stories to tell of how Mara Jade comes from Kesh, or how the New Republic government stands at odds with Luke's Jedi Academy for good intentions, like everyone else, including the Gungan diplomacy story by Cal. But that will do it for tonight's DYAD in the Force. Guys, thank you guys so much for rocking with us tonight, for participating in our games, and for always participating in our conversations.
In our hearts.
In our hearts. And shout out to E.J. who says, but we need an Amberoth. Parentheses, sarcasm. Next week, we'll have a whole new host of Guess That Games as well. And then I suppose I should get started on the next Jeopardy board for Trivia League as well. But, Choco, how's it going?
Thank you all. Thank you all for brightening my week and providing some levity in what was a very hot and sweaty day for me. Appreciate y'all.
Thank you guys so much. That's it. On to the next one.
For Light and for Life.
We are all kyber crystals.
And somehow, this podcast's over.
Man, we just undermined our entire foundation.